Paul Finebum said Colorado and Deion Sanders are irrelevant. Now, mind you, he did so at SEC Media Days. So, how irrelevant are they?
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. My everydayers, I appreciate you guys. You tune in every single day. You comment, you like, you subscribe, you share this with friends. I appreciate you and all your support. We are also brought to you by we are also brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Let's talk about it. Over the past couple days, I think throughout this week, it's SEC Media Days, right? So it's Georgia, it's Texas, it's Oklahoma, it's the new look Bama, it's Mississippi State, it's Ole Miss. All these programs that are as talented as they come, all these programs that are as important to college football as they come. Yet ESPN took some time to talk about Colorado. And this leads me to my whole point here. Now, part of what Paul Finebum said, there was truth in it, but the overwhelming point that he had was wrong. And I want to preface this by saying, before everyone gets all up in arms about Paul Finebum saying this, let's just relax. Like, he is there to create content. He is there to give these hot takes. Let me take you guys down a little trip down memory lane. My very first article, I'm in grad school, get this really cool opportunity with Longhorns Wire, the USA Today, and I'm writing about Texas, right? My very first article was about Paul Finebum going on, I believe it was Get Up at the time, the ESPN show with Mike Greenberg, and talking about how Texas was irrelevant and literally was just saying all this stuff about how Texas is irrelevant, they're not going to be good, and they just don't matter in college football anymore. And it was like this whole thing, this whole spiel, and clearly he's not like moving on from that point. And so this was part of what he said. He said Texas is no big deal other than to Texas fans. And so he just talked about how they're irrelevant, they don't have a place in college football and all that jazz. So that was in 2021. We are in 2024, almost 2025, pretty much. Not really, but we're getting there. And he's still calling teams irrelevant. So let's just relax on the word usage here. But he goes on to ESPN First Take and is talking about Colorado. And I'm going to read you the quote because I can't play it for you guys because it's copyright stuff. But he said, anyone asking whether Deion Sanders and Colorado are close to the playoffs simply don't understand the reality of the road. They're not going to the playoffs this year, and I'm not sure Deion Sanders is ever going to get them to the playoffs because I don't think he has the patience to stay at Colorado long enough. So I'll just break down point by point because there's a lot of things he said. So realistically, let's just talk about Colorado's playoff chances this year. It's a long shot, I think you could say, right? Colorado goes from 4-8 to all of a sudden they're a playoff team. They're currently ranked 36 by ESPN's FPI. Their win total or their projected record is about 6-6, and ESPN's FPI gives them a chance of making the playoff. Let's see, they are currently at a 0.3 chance, not 0.3. I was one section over there, 5.8% chance of making the college football playoff. So realistically, they'd have to prove a lot of people wrong. What will it take for Colorado to make the playoff? It will take a lot. Their offense line has to be way better. Their coaching has to be way better. There was just a lot of adjustment, or there was games where Colorado lost because of their coaching. There was adjustments that were missed on. There were illegal substitution issues. There were poor play calling where it's like, we're going to try to get risky all of a sudden. And it's like, why? Why are we getting risky all of a sudden when this moment doesn't call for it? So coaching needs to get better. Offense line needs to get better. Defense line needs to get better. The run game needs to be useful. There's a lot of ifs about Colorado hanging into the season. Now, I'm not going to pretend that Colorado didn't get they didn't dramatically improve. I'm not going to pretend that's not the case, but did they improve enough to get to the playoff? I personally am not going to make a playoff prediction for Colorado until I see them play. I will need to see them play like half of their season for me to even consider making that prediction because, one, I haven't seen this team play. There's 40-something new players. They're probably going to have a whole new offense line, whole new defense line. Secondary is going to be pretty different. They got 2 new guys, I guess. Shiloh and Cameron and Travis are still there, but there's just a lot of moving parts, and so it's hard to be like, yeah, this team is going to be one of the best in the country. So I don't think it's fair to say that. Like, I'm not going to pretend that Colorado making the playoff isn't a long shot, but with the new playoff format, all it takes is contending in your conference. So realistically, if Colorado wins the right games and all of a sudden they're, I don't know, they have a manageable record in the Big 12 and certain team loses here, certain team wins here. Next thing you know, they're playing for a Big 12 title. Next thing you know, they're in the playoff. That's how the new playoff works. You just have to win your conference. Now, obviously, there's other at-large bid spots, which is probably going to go to like the programs that lost in their conference title games or independent programs like Notre Dame who don't have a conference title game. But you just have to contend for your conference. So can Colorado contend for the Big 12? I think they can make an interesting push. Now, that's not me saying they're going to make the playoff. That's not me saying they're going to win the Big 12. But I do think that a lot of people are discrediting just how good this team can be if everything goes right, which that could be said about a lot of teams. So I continue. He says, there are so many misconceptions out there. Deion Sanders is the best salesman I've ever seen. I personally love the guy for what he stands for, but the program looking out has a ridiculous, inflated view of itself. I heard Shador Sanders, who is a fabulous quarterback, say last week we were everyone's Super Bowl. Shador, you are not. You're an easy win nowadays. You got off to a phenomenal start last year, beating a couple of mediocre teams that had big names, and quite frankly, you haven't done anything since other than crash and burn. I already did a full episode about the Super Bowl comments, and I'm telling you, Colorado last year was not a good team. That's just how it comes out of it. They did not have a good offense line. Like I said, they had poor coaching decisions, poor time management. They didn't have a good defense line. They couldn't stop the run. They had a lot of issues. But to sit here and pretend that Colorado wasn't everyone's Super Bowl is just blasphemy. And you're like, how could they be anyone's Super Bowl if they're not good? All these teams, 8 teams won the Super Bowl last year. Is that what I'm saying? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm like, it's obviously not a national championship caliber game, but the best comparison I can make of this is think of Texas when Texas was bad, which was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, right? Charlie Strong, Tom Herman, before Steve Sarkisian got there, and even in his first year, Texas was not good. They had some mediocre to good seasons with Tom Herman, right? They beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, declared they were back, and then they went like 8-5 the next year. They went 5-7. I think it was that must have been Charlie Strong's last year. I think they went 5-7. Steve Sarkisian's first year, they went 5-7. Kansas beat them. It was a really big deal. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was posting about it. Why? Because Texas is a major college football brand, and regardless of how good they are, how elite they are, or regardless of how much they absolutely suck, people care. I just spit everywhere. People care about beating Texas because you're beating the brand. It is the same thing with Colorado because of Deion Sanders. I'm not saying that Colorado's brand is on par with Texas's historically, but right now there is probably 0 to 5 programs that are more or as popular as Colorado is with Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders is one of the biggest personalities in sports history. And so to act like he isn't generating all this attention and sort of building this game up of college football, this Colorado program up, is just asinine. Like, what are we doing? We know that Colorado's popular. We do. People tuned in to watch them play Colorado State. It was a record amount of views. People tuned in to watch them play Stanford, who was bad last year. They were terrible. People tuned in at a record amount of rate. People tuned in at a record rate to watch them play against TCU, Nebraska. Every time they played, there seemed to be a new record of viewership, right? How is that not a team that's getting Super Bowl level attention? Now, when people say Super Bowl, when Shador Sanders says Super Bowl, he could mean that he thinks that Colorado is so good that everyone's treating them like they're the best. I doubt that's what he means, though. I think he means, and this is me speaking for him, so I could be wrong if he were to tell me, but Colorado, everyone hates them, right? Except for the diehard fans that love them. Everyone else in the country hates them. They want to see them fail. They want to be like, this team comes in with a new head coach who's really famous on his own, hasn't proven much at the coaching level, and all of a sudden they think they're going to dominate the sport that we love, that our program in the SEC, who's been middle of the pack, who's been a middle of the pack program, tries their best every year. We've had generational teams at our middle of the pack SEC program and have never accomplished much. No, of course they hate him. So that's where the Super Bowl comments come from. It's not like everyone, like Georgia is everyone's Super Bowl, right? That's what it is. Georgia, Texas, Alabama. This year, they are everyone's Super Bowl. Michigan as well, because they won the title. Those are Super Bowl caliber opponents where it's like, okay, we're playing Purdue, and is Purdue going to be good next year? Probably not. But is Purdue going to give Michigan or Ohio State a run for their money because it's, hey, we're playing Michigan, we're playing Ohio State? Absolutely. That's how it works. Teams get up for the big teams, for the big programs, for the best teams, and they also get up to beat on teams that are big and popular. That's how it works. I don't know why Paul Feinbaum, someone who is as respected in college football and as well versed as he is, he's a very knowledgeable man. I'm not taking anything away from him. I don't understand how he's choosing to miss the point there. That's all I got to say about that. And then his final comment said, I know that the media loves the story. We fall all over ourselves, but Colorado isn't important in college football. He's a standalone person, talking about Deion Sanders. He's one of the most charismatic people we've ever seen, but Colorado is nothing. They do not matter. They're irrelevant in the big picture of college football. And again, that's just not possible. That is not possible to be irrelevant in the big picture of college football when you are generating some of the most attention the sport has seen. It's just not possible. If you want to say that you personally don't consider Colorado to be in the conversation for a contender, that's a different conversation. It's all about wording. It's all about phrasing. I could read between the lines. I know what Paul Feinbaum's saying. Like, if you were to ask Paul Feinbaum, hey, is Colorado popular? He's going to say yes. But if you were to ask Paul Feinbaum, hey, do you think Colorado's going to win the title? He'd say no. And I don't think he did himself any services or any favors by pretending that everyone was going to be like, yeah, we totally get what you mean by saying this. No, I think realistically, people want to talk about Colorado. They either A, want to talk about how they're going to change college football, or B, they want to talk about how bad they are. To talk about how irrelevant they are, though, that's not a conversation worth having, because that is a waste of time. That's like me saying, you know what? I don't want to talk about college football this year because it's not irrelevant. It's not a popular sport. Or I don't want to talk about LeBron James when I'm talking about the NBA because he's not relevant. It's not a popular sport. Like LeBron James, this is a perfect comparison. I'm, again, much more accomplished. I get that. Much more everything than Colorado is, than Deion Sanders is as a head coach of college football, right? I'm not saying that they're on the same level, but right now, LeBron James is the headliner of a bad Lakers team. They're a consistent play-in team who cannot contend for the title. Obviously, they're making it further than Colorado did in their respective field, but they are not a playoff, or they're not a championship caliber team. The NBA Finals were going on, and we were talking about LeBron's legacy. We were talking about their coaching search was the biggest storyline in the NBA. Right now, the NBA season isn't even happening. And we're spending a majority of the offseason. We're not talking about Arisha Shea, the number 1 overall pick, or Alex Sarr, or Reed Shepherd, or Stephon Castle from UConn, who's with the Spurs. We're talking about Bronny James. We're talking about the 55th overall pick. Because why? Because relevant people in relevant sports will get all the attention. And it is the same thing for Colorado. It is no different. So for everyone who kind of agrees with Feinbaum, ask yourself, if you agree with Feinbaum, you're saying Colorado is irrelevant in the landscape of college football. And if you're not a Colorado fan, why are you thinking about a program that's irrelevant in the landscape of college football? That's all I got to say. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the latest on Cormani McClain. He has a new sort of update over in Gainesville. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. My everydayers, you know who you are. You tune in every single day. You like, you subscribe, you follow, you share this with friends, you comment. I appreciate all the support. This show's growth, its popularity would not be possible, without you guys. So thank you guys for making that happen. Let's talk about Cormani McClain. The other day, I gave you guys an update. I think it was yesterday, actually. What am I talking about? Monday. And this was an update from a Florida insider. And basically, the skinny of it, the gist was that the same issues Cormani had at Colorado, which were being late to meetings, not showing up to things on time, that's the same thing, not showing up to things, just downright immaturity, not doing what he needs to do, was happening at Florida. That was the rumor on the street. Then it was like semi-reported today, kind of, not really, I don't know, it's hard to tell, that Cormani McClain was not on Florida's roster anymore, which implies that he was dismissed from the team. This is what we have to go off of so far. He said on Tuesday there was reports claiming, this is a story I'm looking at right now. Reports claim that Florida had dismissed Cormani McClain, and then their secondary coach, Will Harris, took to social media and said that's not true. And then also there was reports about Cormani McClain having the best week of his time at Florida. He was doing everything he needed to do. It was a way different Cormani McClain than what was being reported. So what is going on down in Gainesville? Let me pull this up real quick, because realistically, I think Cormani McClain is an interesting case study. So this is what is being passed around the internet right now from a couple Florida insiders. One of them said there's rumors out there about him, and then he said he was told by multiple sources that Cormani has been great in the past few days, and it's one of his best weeks since coming to Florida or transferring to Florida. He also said that Will Harris, the secondary's coach, said it wasn't true and that he was on time for the 6 a.m. workouts, and the coaches are planning on pushing him to be even better this season. So what does this tell us about Cormani McClain? How much of a whirlwind it is? Well, one, I'm not going to pretend like this isn't reminiscent of the Colorado days, right? Whereas like Cormani's not doing stuff and there's positive notes where I think if I had to guess, Cormani McClain is just like any other 20-something-year-old, or I don't know how old he is, probably 19, 20, where you know what the right thing to do is. We don't always do it, but when someone tells us or gets on us, we will do it. So if that's what it takes for Cormani McClain to sort of figure things out, then by all means, good for him. I'm happy to hear that he's doing better in Florida. I really would like to see it work out for him just because he has so much talent, and you'd hate to see it go to waste, but you hate to see him lose a passion or lose out on the opportunity of a lifetime just because there's extracurricular or there's outside factors that are deterring him from pursuing his goal, his passion, and what he wants to do ultimately as a career, I would assume. So good for Cormani. I'm happy to see that these reports are swinging in a positive direction. It's just one of those things where he's a young man. He's got a lot of growing up to do, and he's got a lot of learning to do. And it appears that he's sort of doing that as we speak. So props to Cormani for, I guess, figuring things out in the meantime. And hopefully he will work his way into a scholarship opportunity this upcoming season, because obviously he's a walk-on in Florida, and hopefully he gets some playing time and is able to make an impact on a Florida team that has one of the tougher schedules in college football. So he will have plenty of chances to prove himself if he gets on the field. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the virtual field. I'm going to talk about my biggest takeaways from EA Sports College Football 2025. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow the show on Twitter, X, wherever you get your podcast. Follow me on Twitter, X, so that way we could stay in touch. We can talk about all the Buffs shenanigans. Let's talk about it. EA Sports College Football 25. I played it yesterday for the first time, and I have 5 takeaways that I thought I would share with you guys if you're using Colorado or just playing the game in general. Starting with the first one. 1, it's not a Madden reskin. I know a lot of people were like, it's just going to have college football players like Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter moving like Madden characters. That's not the case, in my opinion. I think it moves much better than Madden. I think the engine's very different, not to get all nerdy. I don't really know a lot about the engines, but I could tell it's not as slow, it's not as glitchy, it's not as awkward looking as Madden is. So there's that. Second thing, this game, it's just a great moment to have a college football video game back. I think it like reunites, or it like brings together the college football fan base in a way that not many people, or not many things, can. At one point yesterday, there was over 700,000 people online playing, which is huge. I mean, that's a lot of people. That's 700,000 people playing the same game at the same time, all enjoying it, all having fun. It's really cool. Now, let's talk about, say you're using Colorado, right? Shedeur Sanders, great quarterback. I played on, I forgot, I think it was All-American or Heisman. One of the, I could be flipping them. The second hardest difficulty, because I was like, you know what? I was pretty good at NCAA 14. I should be fine at this game. This game, if you're on offense, you actually have to somewhat read the defense. I'm not going to act like the defense is put on like full on, like they're not there. The defense isn't getting too tricky. They're not trying to like bait you too much, but you do have to read the offense a little bit. You have to figure out what plays work. You have to figure out, okay, we're getting this look. We got man coverage. They have their freshman or corner on Travis Hunter, who's one of the highest rated players in the game, pressed up. Travis Hunter's too fast, too strong. He's going to blow by him, right? Offensively, you just have to sort of read a defense a little bit. Like, it's not like NCAA 14 where you could just call 4 verticals every single play and just throw it to the same receiver. I think it was the X receiver who would just be streaking over the middle every time. It's not that game. It's just not. Defensively, I'm still trying to figure defense out. Defense is tough. I would say the same thing to offense applies to defense. You have to sort of adjust on the fly. The no huddle thing is super fast, and I don't think a lot of people were expecting it to be that quick. You also have to sort of, when I found success, I locked onto a corner. I was Travis Hunter, had 3 interceptions with Travis Hunter alone in the one game I played. You have to figure out, I don't know what position what it is for everybody else. Safety. Because if you're a safety, you can kind of adjust the things easier. But you have to figure out what position you're best at and sort of just hope to impact the game in that manner. You could also kind of disguise coverages a little differently. You can switch to switch to people who the ball is going near or by to try to make a play. Defense is really different than other games as well. You kind of have to, I don't want to say study up a little bit. I'm not trying to make it sound complicated, but you have to be paying attention. You're not going to just be able to run the same play because the offenses do adjust, and the higher you go against the computer in terms of talent level, the more savvy the computer gets. They'll have checkdowns. They'll change plays. The quarterback will scramble. I remember in past games, it was rare that the quarterback scrambled. I had a couple plays where I thought I had the play all blown up, and all of a sudden I forgot I was playing TCU, and next thing you know, Josh Hoover is sprinting for 20 yards down the field. So you just got to pay attention. And then last thing, kicking. It's a nightmare, but you kind of just got to pay attention. You got to, like, every time it hits the side, you have to like time it. So it's like left, right, left, right, left. I time it right when it hits the left, I go left, boom. Because I think too many people are going left, right, left, right, left. Okay, it's over the middle now, boom. And it's like, no, it has to be left, boom, not just left. Okay, I'm watching it hover over, because you got to adapt for the meter. And I would say the same thing for quarterback throwing. You kind of have to get the ball out a little bit quicker because it does have the little meter. I feel like there's an extra second delay maybe when you throw it. That's just at least what I've been noticing. But yeah, so far, love the game. You guys comment below. Who's your favorite player to use on it? Who's your cheat code? Who's your favorite team? Have you rage quit yet? You guys let me know. Appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, share this with a friend, share this with anyone who you think would enjoy, and comment some questions below so that way I could talk about all things Buffs, and we could have some more fun. I hope to see you guys tomorrow. This has been another episode of Locked On Buffs.